Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another goals check-in video. We are actually gonna start this new quarter off with my business goals first. I don't know why. Some months I feel like, or some quarters I feel like I do my personal goals and then my business goals, but for whatever reason it just felt right to start with my business goals this quarter. I think it might have something to do with the fact that I'm a little bit more excited. I'm a lot more energized than I was. So if you are new here, hi, I'm Laken. I talk all about goals. My mission here is to help you achieve your personal goals, and part of that is sharing my goal journey with you. My goal journey is split into two pieces, my personal goals and my business goals. And for business, I don't actually typically set annual goals. I talk a lot more about this in a video called How I Plan My Life, where I literally share all of my planning processes and systems from start to finish, including goals and time management, personal and business. And I don't set annual goals for my business. What I do is I set quarterly goals. And then I have decided this year, and I feel like it's working, let me know if you agree or disagree, kindly, that I update you on a quarterly basis with how my business goals went for the last quarter and what I've set for my business goals for the upcoming quarter. So this video will be a check-in on Q3 and then what I have planned for Q4. We obviously have to start with the fact that when I set my Q3 business goals, I knew I was pregnant. You did not know I was pregnant. And so there's a lot that did not get done in Q3 related to my business. And I think some of it I knew was going to be the case because I knew that my energy levels were going to hit if I had nausea like I had at all with my first pregnancy. Like what I was going to be able to accomplish business-wise in Q3 was going to be a lot lower than what I had talked about. But I actually think it ended up being even lower than I anticipated because pregnancy with a toddler is an entirely different ballgame. Let's go through them one at a time, and I will talk kind of about my thoughts of each one and if that's going to impact anything I'm doing differently in Q4. So the first one was my revenue goal, and as of the day I'm filming this video, which is a week before you see it, so Monday, September 22nd, I haven't even hit 2/3 of my revenue goal, and that's for a couple of reasons. There are a couple payments there's one payment. I think I'm just missing one at this point that comes in more towards the end of the month. So in terms of my Q3 income, I'm still missing one piece of the puzzle. So hopefully I'm gonna hit that last little dot, that checkbox. Obviously I'm not gonna share how much each of those dots represent, but from a general standpoint, you can see that I hit about 2/3 of my revenue goal for Q3, which again, given how I was feeling, given what I did not get done, that does not surprise me. The next goal was my podcast, and there's a couple different symbols here, as you can see. So I have a podcast with my sister that is not technically related to the business, right? It's just me and my sister chatting about life. We're about 10 years apart, and it's just interesting, and we get together and chat about current events and TV and all kinds of stuff. I include it in my business goals because it does take up a decent amount of time to edit and prep, and I do that during work hours. So I include it, even though it's more of a hobby, and financially it's definitely a hobby, it shows up in my business goals. The other reason I like it in my business goals is because because it's for fun and a hobby, I was getting really good at procrastinating my aspects of what I control in the pod. And I wanted to stop doing that. So I thought if I include it in my business goals, it's gonna encourage me to stop procrastinating. And I started doing that, I think it was Q1. Regardless, this quarter was kind of all over the place. So the little dots meant that we recorded an episode that week. I did not get it up on time. X means we didn't even record an episode that week. We skipped a lot in the last couple of months. It was because partially of how I was feeling, partially we had our in-person live event, and partially it's my sister's busy season. She works in weddings, and in Chicago, this is like the super busy season. And then check marks are we had an episode and I got it up on time. And those are the last two that we did because again, I am feeling immensely better than I was a couple of weeks ago, and that has definitely shown through. So I feel good about where we're at with that. I mean, it was just a weird quarter for the pod. The next goal that I always set for business that has been absolutely working for me is a goal in terms of work hours. So ever since I became a parent, trying to balance working for myself and spending time with my daughter has been very difficult. And so I was finding myself at the beginning of that phase doing a lot of the bare minimum and not going above and beyond. And I found by setting a goal, an actual goal to work a certain number of hours over the course of the quarter, that helped a lot. Now, again, with pregnancy, I was not expecting to check all of these off. I was both not totally honest with you and also not realistic about how many hours I was going to be able to work because of my energy levels, because of my nausea, all the things. So frankly, pretty good with that. Obviously, I'll check off the last bit of those from the hours I work this week, because this week that I'm working is still considered Q3 for me. But there's still a lot of check marks there, and that's something that I'm proud of. A lot of those check marks went towards, obviously, the things that I do on a regular basis. So that isn't captured anywhere on these goals. The community that I run, YouTube videos that I upload, all of those things, that takes up a good bit of my time, and that's not actually like on these goals. It's obviously captured in the revenue and it's captured in the work hours, but it is not like something separate that I have write down. I used to do it that way, and now this works better for me. So on top of that, I had a couple extra projects that I wanted to work on in Q3. Some of them went better than others. The first one was getting the new merch launched, and there were really only 3 steps related to that, and I was able to do all of those and get that merch launched. I think I launched it in July. I can't even remember at this point. But if you haven't had a chance to check it out, it actually is always just right underneath my YouTube videos. That was one of my pivots, was using a company that YouTube would allow me to link to my channel. And so you can always shop. There are technically 12 different designs. There's 6 quotes that I have hand designed that are related to encouraging you, motivation, work on your goals, etc. And I have them both in a colored version as well as in a white version. And so the colored version you can get obviously on all white stuff, white mugs, white shirts, etc. And then the white version you can get on any of the colored stuff. So you can get a pink shirt, you can get a black mug, etc. So all of those are always linked if you're interested in checking that out. But that was a big goal of mine for this year, and it took all the way till Q3 to get it done, but that's okay, because I have been trying to simplify things, especially as I knew we were planning to grow our family and have another baby, that I wanted to simplify things, and moving merch to a platform that takes care of all of, like, I don't have to carry inventory. That was important to me, and it feels good to have that checked off. The next Q3 goal was the in-person Plan with Laken event, which is something I've been working on for almost a year at this point, but finally happened in Q3. And so all the steps related to that was a big piece of what I spent my time doing in July and in August until the event happened, which when I had very little energy or little hours, I didn't feel nauseous. That was really tough, but it was super important to me, and I had the best time. Thank you to everybody still who came. It was just getting to spend time together in person is unparalleled, I think, especially after the last however many years we've had. But it's really special to be able to be together. And so I'm really glad that I prioritized that. It was definitely a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. And I know I've gotten so many questions about, like, when are you gonna do this again? I was sad to miss this one. I want to, but it's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. And so obviously never say never, but right now it is not on my radar from a business standpoint. The next big project that I had business-wise was to work on stuff for the planner. And it was just the plan. I wrote planner in general because it actually encompassed 2 different steps. One was the Q4 planner, and actually a bonus downloadable page that comes with that. If you haven't checked out the Goals with Laken planner, which is what this page is from, I have my own goal planner that I created basically exactly what I wanted, and turns out it works for a lot of you as well. And so the Q4 version comes with a downloadable page. You can buy every quarter individually, and then, spoiler alert, when we talk about my Q4 goals, there will also be a full year version for 2026. But in Q3, my goal was to get the Q4 version launched. And then my goal was also to do the 2026 version. That may have been a little ambitious that I was gonna get to that, but I was hopeful, and that did not end up happening. I've done some work, like I'm not starting from scratch for the well, obviously I'm not starting from scratch because we have a prior year, but I've done some work on the 2026 version, but I haven't finished it. And this is one of those things. This personal goals or business goals, okay? When the years, the months, the quarters, they go by, and there are things that happen, both, again, whether you run a business or not. I feel like most people listen to my business goals do have some sort of business or hobby or side hustle. But even if you're just here listening to me and you have personal goals, when things happen year over year, right? Holidays happen, birthdays happen. There are goals that line up the same year over year. I want a better way. Maybe this needs to be a page in the planner. A better way to document the things that we learn. And I feel like I do for business, but maybe not for personal, so that we don't do the same, especially if it's something we want to change, right? I don't even want to call it a mistake, but just something that we want to change, so we know to make that change in future years. So for example, I didn't launch a full year version of the planner until like the fall of 23 for the year 2024. My daughter was a tiny, tiny, tiny newborn, and I worked crazy, weird hours to get that planner launched. And the date of the planner launch was, I don't know what I picked for it to be, but it ended up just being whenever I finished it, and based on being postpartum. Then the next year, I was like, well, I have a 1-year-old, like I'm gonna be fine, I'm gonna be able to make this happen. And so I picked October 1st as my launch date for the planner. And that was a lot surrounded by the fact that other goal planner companies were launching around that time, and I felt like I had to compete with them. Well, they're also sending a physical product. I'm not sending a physical product, so mine doesn't have to be launched quite as early. And what I realized was the end of the month is always a lot busier for me. I'm creating content for the new month. I'm doing an extra goals call within the community. Like there's just all kinds of stuff happening. So an October 1st launch date is really difficult for me. So last year, Laken wrote down, like in my business goals spreadsheet, don't launch the planner on October 1st. Launch it on October 15th. Do it in the middle of the month. And I'm so glad that I did that. And then I picked this year for the launch date to be October 15th, because now I have that extra 2 weeks of wiggle room. So even though I had intentions of finishing it all in Q3, and even if I wasn't gonna launch the planner on October 1st, that it was all done and ready to go, I'm not actually gonna launch it for 2 weeks after that. And I still have 2 weeks of buffer to get everything set up. So that was the Q3 plan. Didn't quite get everything done. That at least I've started to make progress on it. And I got the Q4 planner out. And then the last quarterly goal was to do some updates to my website and write some sales email sequences. None of that happened. I talked in last quarter's goal video that my plan was these other things took priority, and that was gonna be like the above and beyond. And pregnancy became the above and beyond. So none of that ended up happening. Obviously, that is going to be carried over into Q4. And let's move in. Let's talk about Q4. So before I jump into it, I actually realized what I need to rate at the top of this page. I actually set these business goals that I'm about to share for Q4 plus January. So as I mentioned before, I am pregnant and I'm due March 1st. My first baby came 3 weeks early. And I learned that the hard way. I had absolutely had plans to do stuff in September. I mean, so many people were like, well, your first one always comes late. Like, okay, that's great on paper and data, and that's not what happened in my real life. So I was, it wasn't pretty. And so the way that I am planning this pregnancy is that my plan is to be done with work by February 1st. And that might be a little bit over the top. Like that may be a little bit extra, but no, it gives me a little bit of a buffer time. If it takes another week or two, I need to do stuff and the baby hasn't come yet. Like I feel like there's a little bit of a buffer, but at least if I'm planning for a month before my due date, I won't get myself into the same predicament I was in last time. So these goals are for Q4 plus January, because I'm not going to set Q1 goals when I'm only going to be working or planning to work for a month. So some of the numbers, I mean, I don't necessarily share exact numbers in terms of revenue or work hours or any of those things, but in general, also the number of dots on this page are a reflection of the fact that it's 4 months worth of work as opposed to 3 months, which is what I normally do. The other thing is this is the busiest time for my business. It is the end of the year. We have a planner launch. We do the workshops. I do Vlogmas. Like there is so much that happens in my business in Q4 already that also means there's a lot going on this page. I also am hoping, knock on all of the wood, that the energy that I'm feeling right now, I know that it gets harder every single week as the baby grows and I grow. But right now I am riding that second trimester energy. I'm having a boy this time and I just feel so different than when I was pregnant with my daughter. So different at this point. I'm 17 weeks as of the filming of this video and I just feel like a different person than I did with her at 17 weeks. It's crazy. So I'm riding that wave, hopefully for a little bit longer, into Q4. And I have a lot that I want to accomplish before this new little tiny nugget gets here. So let's go through these. The first 3 are the exact same as they were in Q3 with just slightly different numbers. So the first one is a revenue goal. Again, you'll see a lot more dots on this page, partially because it's 4 months of numbers, and then partially, although, I mean, yeah, I guess it does. I'm saying like, I will still have to look at Q4 numbers as we wrap up the year and like do taxes and all those things, but whatever. I calculated everything to include January, but also Q4 is the biggest revenue quarter in my business always. The next goal is the podcast. Same thing. There's a lot more dots than normal because what I did was I included January, but then I also gave us a couple of weeks in case we want to take a break for the holidays. Last year we took a little bit more of a break. We were kind of doing a rebranding. Given we took kind of a break this summer, I don't know that we need that full break like December, January, but I also haven't talked to my sister about that at all. So right now I think there's 15 dots, 15 episodes in October through January. We also need to have a conversation about what maternity leave looks like for the podcast. We've played with a couple of different ideas and we need to decide what we're gonna do there. The next one is the task blocks. This actually may look like there's less dots because I doubled the number that each dot represents compared to the one before. So that number is incredibly ambitious. Like that I'm gonna hit that in those 4 months, but again, I'm already busy because there's so much else that happens. I'm feeling good, so we'll see how that goes. Getting into the actual projects for my business for Q4. So the first one, obviously, is that 2026 planner. Like I mentioned before, I've already started on that project, but I have lots I need to finish. I need to finish finalizing the design. I need to get a video filmed of what a flip through, get all the listings up, actually launch it, all of those things. I think I talked about this in other quarterly goals videos, but just to quickly recap, all of these other projects I have broken down. I actually just type it in a Word doc. I just break it down in a Word doc. And then the dots on this page, which I guess I realized, like if you look at the top down version of me writing it, I hadn't put the dots in yet. So the dots represent the steps within that project. And that's broken down in my Word doc that I will print off and cross off as I do it. But this hangs on top of my desk so I can see, like I'm visibly seeing the progress that I'm making throughout the quarter, which is incredibly inspiring and motivating for me. So the 2026 planner has 7 steps left in it. I broke those down pretty small, to be honest with you. And that one will be done in the first 2 weeks of October. Like the planner is gonna launch October 15th and that project is gonna be done. The next big quarterly goal that I always have in Q4 is the 2026 goal setting workshop. So I think this is our 5th year. I think this started in 2025 and in 2020, and it started just as the breakdown piece of getting your goals set up for the year. And then a couple of years ago, it evolved to include entirely setting up your goals for 2026. And these workshops are held live in December. I'm still finalizing the dates. My mom, this is gonna sound so funny, but I think I talked about this in Vlogmas last year. My mom started this new girls only Christmas tradition, and the reservations open up literally this week. So once she gets that reservation on the books, I am then allowed to finalize my plans for the workshops, and I will send out save the dates. Hopefully by the time you're watching this video, actually I will have posted the dates that you can save if you are planning to join live, but obviously they're always recorded so you can get the workshops and then watch the replays. The workshops also always, for the last couple of years, and this will continue, they will launch like for sale on Black Friday at a discount. So you'll be able to grab them at a discount on Black Friday, and then you can purchase them I think actually I still have the old ones up, which is so silly. I should absolutely take those down, but they'll be live in December to help you get your goals all set up for the new year. So there's a lot that goes into that, both the back end stuff, preparing for it, getting all of my stuff ready to go, and then executing on them is what all those dots represent. The next 2 are those goals, like I got those. I do those every year. I'm not super concerned about. These next 2 are the ones that I really are important to me and I want to make sure that I get to, but I'm also a little bit nervous that they'll get pushed to the back burner. So the first one is slightly of a carryover from my Q3 goal that didn't happen, but I also added and then adjusted stuff. I added something, but then I took some other stuff out. So that is to create a new bonus. So it's gonna be like a bonus mini course that you can snag. The plan is to launch that in November, so keep an eye out for that. I will obviously talk about it in all of the places. And then the emails that go with that, as well as website updates. So the vision here is that I'm setting up some systems in my business that will work for me when I am out on maternity leave. So systems that I probably should have had in my business years ago, but I'm finally getting around to doing them. And you'll notice there's a lot less dots on that one. I don't have it broken down near as much on this progress page. I do have it broken down a lot more somewhere else, but there's actually a lot of steps and I didn't want to put that many dots. So these are kind of more the big bucket categories, and they're broken down even more in other places. And then the last goal, which I feel like should come as no surprise, is prepping for maternity leave. So making sure that there are YouTube videos ready to go. I have some really awesome content idea, like series planned to have go up while I'm on maternity leave, as well as make sure the community is all set and ready to go, and they have calls recorded for them ready to go. And make sure that all their texts and Facebook posts and stuff are all scheduled. And then what's the other component to that? Oh, weekly newsletter, emails. Those are kind of the big categories. So the dots are kind of like those things for January through April is my goal. That's my goal. That's my big vision, is to get all those things set up. But obviously when I'm prioritizing this stuff, I'm not gonna prioritize it in those categories I just said, right? YouTube videos, community calls, community content, weekly newsletters. I'm gonna prioritize it in January, February, March, April. Because worst case scenario is I can start to do some stuff while the baby naps if I don't get April set up in advance, but that is my vision. A lot of this stuff that I'm envisioning to help me prep for being done early before my due date, as well as prepping for maternity leave, did not happen with my first baby, but I know a lot more now. But I also have a toddler now. So it is what it is. Those are my Q4 business goals, Q4 plus January. It is ambitious, but like I said, I'm feeling extra motivated. I'm physically feeling extra energized and excited to tackle these. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this, like what goals videos might look like in 2026, actually in the personal goals video. So we're gonna wrap up this business goals video here. If you found this helpful, if you watched all the way to the end, comment below with just the rainbow emoji. I think I did that last time, but I just like love the rainbow colors on my business goals. Comment below with the rainbow emoji if you watched all the way to the end. If you find these videos helpful, I would love to hear about it, whether you have a business or you just get little insights of me talking about my business goals, or you're just curious what's coming for Plan with Laken. Maybe that's why you watch these business goal videos, but I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. As always, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon. But for whatever reason, it just start, why can't I say that sentence? Finish Q, why can't I say what I'm trying to say? Also, I feel like I play with my hair too much. Or slash, plus, not plush, not slash. Like the planner is gonna blanch.